So the wife of my husband's brother. This is where my husband's cousin lives. This is her small house, and then she also has a big house over there.
What do you think of finding your partner on a different continent and a wild tribe? This is the true love story of Stephanie, a young girl from Germany who found love in an African warrior and lived with him in a wild tribe. How could she adapt to the new environment, culture, and people? What were her biggest challenges? Join us as we delve into Stephanie's story among the Maasai people, the little girl from Germany. Stephanie was born in Frankfurt, Germany, in 1986. According to her, she was raised by a single mom who had come to Germany from France when she was only 19 years old. As fate would have it, she also moved away from home when she was 19. She has to say, "I traveled around Australia and then went to England to study biology and conservation at Bath Spa University. During this visit to the continent, she fell in love with Africa and promised to return soon. After graduation, I came to Tanzania to volunteer for a London-based conservation NGO. I worked for a year close to the Selous Game Reserve, where we focused on establishing migration corridors for large mammals," she concluded. But the question lingers. Where exactly did they meet, and how did they become a couple? Stephanie met her husband on her first day on Mafia Island. She and her team lived in a small village inside the marine park, and Sokoween happened to be the security guard for a dive center. I met him on my first day on the island while strolling through the village and was taken by him immediately. His eyes attracted me. I remember that as if it was yesterday. But during the first weeks, Sokoween and the other Maasai were reserved towards us, friendly and always smiling, but preferred to stay by themselves. But then, love can't be hidden forever, Stephanie said. One day, however, a friend of mine, a local, told me that Sokoween liked me. I, of course, was overwhelmed and could not believe it. Someone so beautiful and exotic likes me? That day, Sokoween and I talked properly and openly for the first time, and things went from there. We got together a week later, but I had only 3 weeks left on my contract by then. In June, because I did not want us to be apart, I returned to Mafia Island with Sokoween, where he had to continue working to support his family. I was very lucky to get my old job back. We lived together like this on beautiful Mafia Island for 5 months, and then I had to go home to Germany for a while. On January 2012, I came back, and it was then that Sokoween and I decided to move to his family's home in the Maasai steppe. I would support his family, and we would live a traditional Maasai life, living off the land and our cattle. This shows that Stephanie had no regret at the beginning of her relationship with Sokoween. However, did this last forever? How could she live with people of a strange culture to her? Before discussing this, let's see how Stephanie's family regarded her choice. According to Stephanie, her family was not jubilant about the whole idea. She said, "They were a bit worried, I think. They had never met Sokoween or been to Africa, so they had some misconceptions about it." Well, they had every right to be worried. But who stood as her support system? Her friends, of course. My close friends from England and Germany were a bit more open about it, and one actually came out for our traditional Maasai wedding in April 2012. Stephanie's challenges. Stephanie had her fair share of difficulties while adapting to a new life among the Maasai. She said, "It was difficult at first finding my feet living with his family. I did not know the language, and they only spoke basic Swahili. I often felt lonely and misunderstood. I felt insecure in our relationship because of the strain adapting to Maasai life put on my happiness." While Stephanie was passing through this, she found solace in her husband's family. She said, "What kept me sane was his lovely family. I fell in love with their culture and how they lived close to nature and their animals. They were so welcoming and tolerant towards me. They were taking me in with no questions asked. They put Maasai jewelry on me and dressed me in their clothes. They were trying to turn me into one of them right from the start, looking after me as well as you would after a small child. I guess I was a small child in their world, and they tried their hardest to make the transition easier for me. It is just that wherever you go, the attention is on you. You are white, you stick out, and people call you Mzungu, the term they use for foreigners here. At first you think they are being offensive, but they really are not. They are just curious, and especially in rural Africa, the sight of a white person is so rare that it makes for a big event. I used to not like it sometimes, But as with so many other things, you get used to it. And when you respond with a smile, you get a smile back. However, she said, sometimes when I am not well, especially when I have malaria, I do fancy pizza and a nice cold glass of fruit juice. But when I am healthy, I am fine with just eating rice and vegetables every day. I am living each day the way I want to, doing what I feel like doing. Stephanie continues, the thing is, here in Africa, even out here in the middle of nowhere, you can get most things that you find in the Western world too. You just have to go a little further and work a little harder to get it. I have a solar panel providing me with electricity. We have a rainwater tank providing us with water. But in all, Stephanie enjoys her African home. I am living each day the way I want to live it, doing what I feel like doing. I have no stress, no bills to pay, no job to get to at 8 in the morning. I wake up every day surrounded by nature, by the laughter of children, and the noises of our animals. I am free to roam wherever I feel like going. I get on really well with my mother-in-law, whose kindness and wisdom have made her one of my best friends. Regarding transportation in the rainy season, Stephanie has something to say. What bothers me sometimes is the difficulties getting from one place to the other during the rainy season. To get to our village, you must navigate a 100-kilometer stretch of dirt road, which turns to mud during the rains. Many times we abandoned the bus, started walking, and did not get home till late at night. But these adventures make you stronger, lift your spirit, and keep you on your toes, both mentally and physically. How could she cope with the cultural differences surrounding her living with her husband and his family? Stephanie admitted that many things bothered her and even upset her when she joined her husband's family. But now, she's used to them. She said, one big difficult thing initially was never having alone time with my husband. He is always surrounded by other warriors, often right until the minute we go to sleep. It used to bother me. It does not anymore. I love that we share everything with his family and that our house is always open to his siblings, friends, and neighbors. When talking about kids, raising them is women's responsibility in Africa. However, Stephanie wasn't happy about this. She said, it was also hard to accept that my husband, being a warrior, would not play a big part in raising our son, who is now 2. The first few months after birth were some of the hardest of my life, but as with the most difficult things in life, they also taught me some valuable lessons. As with all cultures, the Maasai also have certain taboos and behaviors that are strange to the average Westerner, but you get to know and accept them. Sometimes I wish I could talk more openly about my feelings, dreams, and desires to my husband's family, but I know they would not understand me how I want them to, so I leave it. There are still moments when I feel utterly alone and misunderstood, but these moments pass and often have more to do with myself than with the beautiful people I am surrounded by. It comes down to this, and this is true for everyone, no matter where you are in the world. If your heart and mind are in it, you will try your best to make it work. If they aren't, you will discover the day you chose to give up trying. In a nutshell, Stephanie embraced all the challenges related to living in Tanzania, Africa. She said about her finances and thirst for tourism, I have been supporting my husband's family for over 6 years now. Without a regular income, this has taken its toll on my finances. I had to devise a way of earning an income without making investments. So I decided to open our doors to an international audience and invite people to visit our home and experience Maasai's fascinating culture. I created a cultural tourism website and started writing a blog about my experiences living with the Maasai. My son, who was born into his father's culture, inspired me to do so, to preserve the beautiful wild land we live in so that he may grow up true to his Maasai roots and in harmony with nature. We have had a handful of guests, and they loved the experience. Tanzania has one of the worst education systems in Africa. If one manages to improve just one of those 3 aspects, it will positively impact the other 2. I aim to provide funds for our community to be educated in land management and conservation, so that we may work together to protect and regenerate our range of lands, which suffer from unsustainable agriculture practices and deforestation. It will take years to provoke change and to see some results, and I will be here to support and encourage them and to keep digging for those much-needed funds. There are many community-owned concessions in Kenya, many run by Maasai or Samburu, which have abundant wildlife sharing its space with the tribe's cattle. And this is what I hope to create here. I believe the Maasai can be guardians over their land once again. I am just giving them a little push to start this effort. This will be an ongoing project. We may have reached our deadline, but I can already tell you it will not be the last. With the funds I have raised now, we can start our education, but we will need to raise funds to implement what we have learned and take a second, longer, more in-depth course. You will agree that Stephanie is an angel to the Maasai people. She was ready to do all this for love, expecting nothing back. Which love story can be more captivating than this? Well, Stephanie is Yannick's mother. However, due to the Maasai environment, his birth wasn't smooth. Keep watching as we delve into Stephanie's pain during childbirth, the pain of childbirth. Every woman loves to have a natural birth, isn't it? Well, Stephanie hoped for that. However, it didn't happen as wanted. Listen to her testimony. I was dreaming of a natural birth, yet I did not quite trust my body. I knew I did not trust myself, because why else was I considering a hospital birth in the big city of Dar es Salaam instead of a home birth attended by traditional Maasai midwives? I lived among my husband's people, the Maasai of Tanzania, for 4 years. I had witnessed births of women's home births, attended by only their female relatives and the traditional birth attendant. I was amazed at how easy and safe birth seemed for them, and still, I did not trust that it would be the same for me. I was 29 then. Now, looking back, I understand the struggle in my head. I understand that back then, I was torn between wanting to honor my trust in Maasai women and having a home birth with them, and my Western conditioning that had taught me that birth was dangerous and that home births were irresponsible. My son is more than 7 years old now, and still, I am processing the trauma I was exposed to during and after my birth. I don't have another child. I don't think I want one, and I know that the reason for that is that I am scared. I am scared of losing myself again, the way I lost myself after the birth of my son Yannick. Scared of being lost, depressed, and unhappy again. What could have led to this fear? Let's dive into what happened to Stephanie before she could give birth to her child. She said, "My husband Sokoin and I decided to leave our Maasai village 2 weeks before the due date and travel to Dar es Salaam, the biggest city in Tanzania, where I should have my baby in hospital. I thought I was making the smart choice. On the 13th of February 2016, I felt contractions early in the morning. A friend of mine who had had her first baby only 2 months previously had told me that contractions felt like period pain, only stronger. All through that day, I felt fine until, in the evening, I was sick. The contractions were getting stronger, and close to midnight, I was admitted to the hospital. Having my uterus checked by a strange male nurse felt like a violation to me. I wanted my doctor or at least a female nurse, but no, I let it wash over me. But of course, it was not ideal. The hospital felt cold and sterile, filled with bright lights. I was shown my room with my husband and told to walk up and down the stairs at the end of the hallway. Then it was just me and Sokowine and the contractions, which did not let me sleep. Stupidly, I was worried about my husband, who I knew was worried about me. I was in survival mode. I did not concentrate on myself and my body, but let my mind wander to my husband, to the strange nurses who were checking up on me, and to what would happen to my baby. It was torture for my body and my mind. I was not happy, relaxed, and excited. I was tense and scared. How was my baby supposed to be born naturally if birth itself felt like torment to me? Around 9 a.m. the next morning, I was taken to the delivery room. But after 5 hours of more intense labor, I was still not dilated enough. The midwife called a doctor, and I heard them consult. The word cesarean fell, and I remember thinking, yes, that makes sense. My mom had had 2 C-sections. Somehow, in the back of my mind, there was the lingering conviction that this was also my fate. I started pushing, but the midwife told me to stop as I was not dilated enough. I was exhausted from lack of sleep, food, and contractions. I was worried about myself and my baby. They suggested a C-section, and when I heard Yannick's heartbeat go silent during one contraction, I agreed. I was rolled to the operating theater, and I remember a breathing mask being put on my face. The next thing I knew, I had awakened from a pleasant dream. The room is blurry. I only see Sokowine sitting by the window. He approaches me, and I realize he is crying tears of relief at seeing me open my eyes. I feel sorry for him and stammer that he should not be worried. I am dazed by the narcotics that had put me to sleep, and I drift off again. I had the cesarean at 3 p.m., and when I awakened fully, it was dark outside. I checked the clock, and it was nearly 11 p.m. at night. I am thinking, where is my baby? I had heard that once you had a cesarean, you are incapable of sitting up by yourself because your stomach muscles are severed. But I wanted my baby, and I was alone in my room, so I rolled to my side and sat up carefully. I felt no pain. I rolled the drip stand attached to my arm through my room and down the hallway. I found the nursery and found my baby. I looked at him and thought, yes, he is perfect. He is exactly how he was meant to be. When I was around 6 months pregnant, I had a dream about my baby. I saw a vision of him. I saw he was a boy with a round head and soft golden hair, and this was exactly the boy I was looking at now. My milk came in without any problem 2 days after I had birthed my son. It was excruciatingly painful whenever he latched onto my breast, but I bit my tongue and let him nurse. To me, there was no other option. Stephanie must be happy to be a mother, but that was far from true. Instead, she remarked that she had healed physically, but not mentally. Why would this happen to a new mother? She said, my husband distanced himself from me and my son, as is common in the Maasai culture. Yet it hit me badly. I missed him and was disappointed that he did not make more of an effort to spend a little time with us every day. Not once did he ask me how I was doing. My mother-in-law moved into my hut and helped me so much with Yannick. We took turns holding him at night. She helped me wash his clothes, and my sister-in-law cooked for me. This is a common practice in Maasai culture. A new mother has a special status and is being looked after by only the females in her family. A new mother is not supposed to do any work for 2 to 3 months postpartum. I had always loved Yayai, my mother-in-law, but after the birth of Yannick, we grew even closer. I realized what it means to be a mother. I realized how hard it was and how it changed you. And I was awestruck by the love and support my fellow women were showing me. To say that I am grateful to them is an understatement. I owe them. I love and respect them forever. Not only because they were there for me, but because I became a mother myself. I understood how strong and brave they were, how much they trusted themselves, and their ability to bring life into this world. Maasai women have as many as 10 children. My mother-in-law has 8. And my husband Sokowine is the firstborn. I made a mistake not trusting myself and not trusting them, and for this, I got a traumatic birth. We can then conclude that Stephanie loved her husband, but even more his people and his tribe. What do you think of Sokowine and Stephanie's love story? Feel free to share your mind in the comment section below. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.